Interpretation in counseling. Interpretation skills are counselor statements which are purposefully used by the therapist to address the issue raised by the client. Explanatory statements given by the therapist in a meaningful words to address the client's problem. Interpretation makes client to view a problem or situation from an alternative frame of reference. This won't change the fact of event or situation or problem, but it shows other ways to deal with the problem. It's a way of verbal communication by therapist which enhances the constructive behavior of the client. Sometimes it is also referred as reframing, which provides alternative meanings to the group experiences and the problem. So, the objective of interpretation is to provide a new perspective to the client in counseling process. So, the client will go for other options for the same problem. Thus, it's a therapeutic technique which helps the client in broadening the problem-solving coping skills in the form of other orientation or solutions to the problem by the client suffering. Interpretation is a form of additive responding. Therapist can present a new frame of an issue which client suffering from. So, the reframing is used along with interpretation in counseling process. Establishment of explanatory concepts which serve as resource for further research of problem. It opens a new avenues by using intelligence, knowledge. It broadens the problem-solving aspect therapy. Good interpretation should have a complete information, clear, concise, coherence, and correspondence. It works at both individual and communal level. It's effective if added with self-correction and admission. Understanding client's problem from cultural background is very effective. Vocabulary and coherence of therapy should be effective. Good interpretation, Personal communicational skills makes the interpretation process very effective. Listening attentively helps interpretation successful. Taking notes and noting each and every aspect of client is an added asset. Gaining experience and professional certification is vital to the therapist or counselor to deal with the problems in a therapeutic manner. Interpretation skills are very important to get the detailed information about an issue. Examine the ideas, identify the assumptions, reasons or claims. So the interpretation concept is explaining something in understandable or meaningful way and should be well practiced by the counselor. A good interpreter or counselor should also have the magnificent language skills, soft skills, life skills and cultural competence and accreditation. Above all, he or she should be a good empathetic listener. Interpreter should convey the intended message and facts without any hesitation. They need to be quick to speak clearly with confidence. Need to give space for feelings of client. Person-centered counselors regard the client's frame of reference. Psychoanalytic approach of counseling focuses on establishing causal relationship between the past and current experiences. It should not be used in early session and to reduce its frequency of usage. It should be used as a single counseling session and it's to avoid opening issues that can't be adequately integrated in the remaining sessions. Example, artist's way of expressing his thought about the nature is one way of interpretation. Types of interpretation. Remote simultaneous interpretation, which is starting with the latest ones. Simultaneous one is speaker will be speaking and remaining all will be listening to that speech with headsets. Relay interpretation. Practice of interpreting from one language to another through third language. Simultaneous and consecutive interpretation. Consecutive interpretation is mostly used and it is nothing but guide interpreting. Here therapist acts as guide to ventilate the feelings of the client. Whispered interpretation. Private meeting between the two dignitaries. Liaison interpretation. Informal interpretation at business dinners or meetings. Travel interpretation or escort interpretation. Here therapist helps to the clients like an assistant. Over the phone interpretation. It is like remote interpretation services. So, a faithful and true therapist interpret for all the parties of clients without adding and omitting or changing any content of the message given by the client. Being highly proficient in language of client, impartial nature, clarifying all doubts of client, advocating for the client, and finally able to deal with the cultural differences which influence the client's issue. So, interpretation is a form of additive responding whose purpose is to explain rather than merely describe the client's behavior and to change the client's frame of reference in therapeutic direction. Interpretation allows the client to behavior change by exposing to various alternatives of problem-solving approach. Thus, client's problem or issues are addressed thoroughly by the therapist. And it is one of the best counseling skills used by the psychology therapist at counseling sessions. Thank you.